Sweat stings my eyes as I wrestle the Captain Happy head on. It smells vaguely of stale popcorn and something else I can't quite place, like stale fear. Kids swarm around me, tiny hands tugging at my oversized gloves. Hi, Captain Happy! They shriek, their excitement muffled by the thick foam head. Can I give you a hug? Great. Just what I need. Claustrophobia and a cuddle puddle. I clench my jaw, forcing a smile that feels more like a grimace. This Mascot gig is supposed to be easy money, not a test of my sanity. But hey, gotta pay off those student loans somehow, right? Suddenly, my giant shoe catches on a rogue ice cream cone, sending me sprawling. Laughter erupts from the gaggle of kindergartners. My face burns, even though no one can see it under this stupid mask. Oh no! Captain Happy fell down, one little girl shrieks, clapping her hands with glee. Figures. Maybe I should have stuck with waiting tables. At least there, the only thing I'd trip over was my own pride. As I scramble to my feet, a wisp of a girl with pigtails tugs on my glove. Why are you sad, Captain Happy? She asks, her big brown eyes filled with concern. My fake smile falters for a second. Sad? Maybe a little, but mostly suffocated. This costume feels like a giant, yellow coffin, and the heat is making my claustrophobia scream. I remember that day, all those years ago, the tight grip of a stranger's hand, the stifling darkness. No, focus, Ben. These kids need Captain Happy, not Captain Panic Attack. Not sad at all, I boom, my voice muffled by the mask. Just surprised by all this love. Can't a captain get a little overwhelmed by his fans? The girl giggles, satisfied. Mission accomplished, except for the constant low-grade terror gnawing at my insides. The day stretches on, an eternity of photo ops and birthday greetings. Just as I think I can't take another high five, a break is announced. I stumble towards the changing room, desperate to rip this suffocating head off. Suddenly, a bony hand clamps onto my shoulder. I whirl around, heart hammering, to see Mr. Grump, the park janitor, looming over me. His face is a permanent scowl, etched deep by years of something. He eyes me with a suspicion that chills me to the bone. You seem to be enjoying yourself a little too much, Captain Happy, he rasps, his voice like sandpaper on wood. Remember, the mascot doesn't get breaks. There are happy faces to spread. My breath hitches. Was it just my imagination? Or did his gaze linger a little too long on the costume head in my hand? Ignoring the prickling sensation at the back of my neck, I mumble an apology and hurry towards the changing room. But Mr. Grump's words echo in my mind, adding another layer of unease to the day's already strange occurrences. As I unclasp the back of the head, a glint of metal catches my eye. Inside, scrawled on the grimy lining in what looks like lipstick, is a chilling message. Help us escape. Blood drains from my face. My breath hitches. This can't be real, can it? A cold dread coils around my heart, squeezing the air from my lungs. Help us escape? Who wrote this? And where the hell do I even begin to look? The message burns into my brain like a bad sunburn. Help us escape. Is it a prank? Some sick joke by a bored teenager? No. Mr. Grump's beady eyes following me earlier. That wasn't a coincidence. Panic wrestles with a strange sense of purpose. These kids need my help. Whoever wrote that message. Taking a deep breath, I shove the Captain Happy head back on, the stale fear clinging to the fabric. The rest of the day drags by in a blur of forced smiles and high fives. Every rustle of fabric seems to hold a hidden whimper, every mascot a potential accomplice. During a bathroom break, I catch Mr. Grump lurking outside the stall. He pretends not to see me, but his narrowed eyes betray him. "Something wrong, Captain Happy?" he rasps, his voice dripping with suspicion. My stomach twists. "Just needed a little pep talk," I mumble, hoping to sound convincing. He raises an eyebrow, unconvinced. "Remember, Captain," he says, leaning closer. "Smiles are contagious. Spread them generously." With that, he shuffles away, leaving me with a cold pit in my gut. Later, after the park closes, I spot Mr. Grump having a clandestine meeting near the rickety Ferris wheel. His partner is a portly man with a greasy smile and a diamond pinky ring that gleams under the fading light. They exchange a briefcase stuffed with cash, their hushed conversation barely audible. A shiver runs down my spine. This goes way beyond a mascot prank. Shadowing them at a safe distance, I notice how Mr. Grump interacts with the other mascots. Their movements seem stiff, unnatural. As I pass the goofy costume, a muffled whimper escapes the oversized head. My blood runs cold. Are those kids in there? My shadow stretches long and distorted in the fading light as I tail Mr. Grump and the other mascots. Their movements are oddly synchronized, devoid of the usual playful energy. An unsettling feeling crawls up my spine. These aren't happy characters. They're puppets on a string. They head towards a deserted corner of the park, a tangle of overgrown bushes obscuring their destination. My pulse quickens. This is it. I crouch behind a giant discarded cotton candy machine, heart hammering against my ribs. Mr. Grump shoves the mascots towards a rusted hatch, hidden beneath a pile of dusty decoration. Their muffled protests are cut short as Mr. Grump forces them down one by one, a cruel glint in his eyes. A wave of nausea washes over me, but I force it down. I have to see where they're going. Once the last costumed figure disappears, a tense silence descends. What feels like an eternity, I inch closer to the hatch. The stale air that wafts up carries a hint of something metallic, something unsettling. Taking a deep breath, I grip the rusty handle and pry the hatch open. A wave of stale air and a muffled sob explodes from the darkness below. Dread wraps around me like a shroud. This is worse than I ever imagined. The hatch groans open, spitting me into a darkness that feels like a living thing. The air is thick with the smell of mildew. My heart hammers a frantic rhythm against my ribs. Taking a shaky breath, I pull out my phone, the dim flashlight barely penetrating the gloom. Each step down the rickety ladder feels like descending into my own personal hell. The space below is a maze of cobwebs and damp stone walls. Then I see them, a huddled mass of color in the distance. Discarded mascot costumes piled haphazardly, and beneath them, whimpers. As I approach, the whimpers escalate into choked sobs. The stench of fear intensifies. Shining my light on the grotesque heap, I see children. Kids, their faces pale and streaked with grime, peering out from the oversized heads. One of them, a small boy with wide, terrified eyes, lets out a gasp. "Captain Happy?" he whispers, his voice trembling. Panic threatens to choke me. How many are there? Where's Mr. Grump? Suddenly, a metallic clang echoes through the chamber. Two figures descend a metal staircase on the far side of the room. Mr. Grump and the oily man. "Nice haul, Grump," the oily man says, his voice dripping with a sickening relish. These runts will fetch a pretty penny. My blood runs cold. These aren't mascots. They're merchandise. Mr. Grump lets out a humorless chuckle. Don't worry, they'll be nice and happy for their new homes, he rasps. The children huddle closer, their silent terror a punch to the gut. I can't stand here anymore. Something primal takes over. I charge towards Mr. Grump, a primal scream ripping from my throat. Leave them alone, I shouted with rage and anger. The oily man reacts first. He's surprisingly fast for his size, slamming into me with the force of a battering ram. The air explodes from my lungs as I hit the cold stone floor. Stars dance in my vision. Mr. Grump looms over me, a cruel amusement flickering in his eyes. Nice try, Captain Happy, he sneers. Before I can even react, the oily man grabs me, his grip like a vice. He yanks a spare costume from the pile and stuffs me into it. The stale, sweaty fabric engulfs me. I struggle, but it's no use. My muffled screams are swallowed by the thick foam head. The world shrinks to darkness, and the suffocating smell of popcorn. A horrifying realization dawns on me. I've become part of the collection, and as the oily man shoves me into the pile with the other terrified children, a chilling thought echoes in my mind. Will anyone ever hear us escape? My muffled scream dies in the suffocating darkness of the costume head. Claustrophobia slams into me like a tidal wave. This isn't the playful Captain Happy mask anymore. It's a tomb, a silent prison. My heart thumps a frantic rhythm against my ribs, trapped like a caged bird. Suddenly, a grating voice pierces the oppressive silence. It's Mr. Grump, his words echoing in the dank basement. Another successful shipment, he says, a hint of pride in his raspy voice. Been using these costumes for years, right under everyone's noses. Who suspects a happy mascot, eh? His words twist in my mind, turning Captain Happy's forced grin into a symbol of my own horrifying entrapment. He's right. Who would suspect anything sinister behind a giant yellow smile? A wave of nausea washes over me as I hear the oily man shove another child into a costume. A muffled sob escapes the fabric next to me. It's the young boy, the one who recognized me. My own choked cry mingles with his, the desperate symphony of terror echoing in the darkness. The world above fades away. There's only the stale air, the suffocating fabric, and the chilling realization of my own helplessness. Then, a faint light pierces the darkness, the first hint of dawn. A creaking sound echoes in the distance. Mr. Grump and the oily man are leaving. Are they coming back for us? The thought hangs heavy in the air. Moments later, the floor above thumps with activity. The park is waking up. I can hear the distant laughter of children, the excited buzz of families arriving for another day of fun. A fresh wave of despair washes over me. The park reopens. The mascots emerge, their movements eerily synchronized. Their smiles seem wider today, somehow more sinister. Through the mesh eye holes of the Captain Happy head, I see Mr. Grump watching the crowd, a predatory grin twisting his face. Is anyone out there even looking? Are we forever trapped in this twisted game of HappyLand? The Captain Happy mask stares out, a vacant symbol of joy that hides a chilling truth. The screams of the other children echo in my ears, a constant reminder of our silent nightmare. The park may reopen, but for us, the only escape seems like a distant, horrifying dream.